Hey, this is Kathy Perry, corporate energy expert, helping you and your senior living teams power up. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about the 5 ways that stress is affecting your senior living teams. Stay to the end of the video because I'm going to talk about the effects, but then I'm going to also talk about some things you can be doing, simple things to do throughout your day and for your teams to help alleviate some of that stress. Well, we know that we've been through a horrific couple of years that have been so stress filled. Well, what this looks like to your body is akin to what it looks like as if you've been being chased by a bear. Well, about 30 years ago, I was actually in that stressful situation. We were in the backcountry of Yosemite National Park, and when you go into the backcountry, you have to sign up with the ranger, and then the ranger says, okay, great, give us your itinerary, where you're gonna go. And by the way, our bears are very smart here. You must rent a bear-proof canister if you're going to be in the backcountry. We're like, oh, we've been hiking and camping all over the West. We know what we're doing. They said, no, our bears are really smart here, smarter than the average bear in Yosemite. So off we go with our bear-proof canister. First night, we see nothing out there in the woods. The next day, beautiful 7-mile hike, gorgeous vistas. Well, that night in our camp, in our thin nylon tent, we hear this rustling outside of the tent. And what do you think we immediately go to? Is it a bear? Could it be a bear? Well, of course, as it gets closer and closer to that thin nylon tent, it becomes apparent it's a bear because you can hear it breathing. And all of a sudden, we're thinking, what are our options? We're in a thin nylon tent. Well, gets a little closer, and my ex-husband starts to unzip the tent and he says, be quiet, I want to see the bear. Well, I had no interest in seeing the bear, so I screamed the big sissy scream. The bear ran away. But do you think I slept at all that night? No, I was too stressed out. All of the things that were meant to save me from that bear were happening to me. So, it's going to either be a fight or flight situation. And I knew I wasn't going to fight the bear, and chances are I weren't going to outrun it. So I did the next best thing. I screamed. And some of you in senior living might be to the point where you want to scream. But I want to talk a little bit about what's happening when we're running around with those bears. And the bears might look like you're short-staffed. It might look like other workforce issues where productivity's down or call-offs are coming in. You just don't have people in the positions where you need them. Or it could be all those regulations that are coming down on you, changes daily, weekly. There's a whole host of things that happen in your positions that can cause you to be stressed. But we have to remember we need to let those bears go for our own health, for our own sanity, so we aren't ready to scream. Well, what's actually happening when you are stressed out? First thing I mentioned, did I sleep that night? No way, because when your stress hormones are elevated, that's adrenaline and cortisol, it turns off other hormones, and melatonin, your sleep hormone, doesn't get produced as easily. So you might be dog tired at the end of the day, exhausted, but you get in bed and you just lay there because those stress hormones won't allow you to fall asleep. Well, here's one that's unexpected that many people might not know about, and that's it's really hard to lose weight when you're stressed out. Because see, when that cortisol stays elevated, it does a lot of things that adrenaline does. It increases your heart rate, makes your blood thinner, gets oxygen flowing more easily so you can run from that bear. But cortisol stays elevated for 24, 36, 48 hours after the threat is gone. And when your body is saying, I'm in a threat situation, it's also saying, I gotta hang on to that fat, hang on to those fat stores. So if you're fighting with a little bit of weight, it might be because you're stressed out. Well, next, I just alluded to it a little bit, digestion. We don't need to properly digest our food when we are running from the bear. All of our energy needs to go from getting away from this stressful situation. So our digestion slows. In this country, we should be I should say everybody's digestion should take 24 to 36 hours, but because of the stress and a lot of other factors in America, our digestive systems are taking upwards of 3 days to digest our food, much longer than should happen. So we suffer from some heartburn, indigestion, the upset stomach. Stress causes issues with digestion. Next, of course, we've heard and we know about this. They even call it a stress test. If you go to the cardiologist, stress can have a difficult effect on heart health, circulation, hypertension, all of those things that nobody wants to be experiencing. We're seeing those happen in younger and younger people because we're stressed out. And then finally, of course, moods, our relationships, anxiety, all of those things kind of come encompassed when we're stressed out. We're often just not as nice as we should be. And in a senior living situation, that reflects on our residents. So that's some of the downside of stress. Those are the way it could be affecting you personally, on your team. There's a whole lot more as well. But what do you do? What are some of the things that you can do? Well, first thing, just breathe. I always tell people, if you start doing deep breathing throughout your day, you send a physiological message to your brain that says, the bear is gone. I can move through this. And some of those stress hormones start to decrease. So if it takes a reminder in your phone to say time for 10 deep breaths, or there's some meditation apps you can get where they'll ping you throughout the day and just say, hey, take 15 seconds to breathe, or take 15 seconds to think about something that makes you happy. You know, when we do happy things, we send off the dopamine receptors in our brain, and those start to alleviate the stress hormones as well. Well, next, and this is really important if you have a team, begin to assess where the stress is coming in. Is there a certain individual, a certain situation? What are the stress triggers? It's a great exercise to do with your team. Take, 5 minutes in the morning and say, what triggers me today? Or did you already come into your location carrying stress from home? Was there a stressful situation that was happening in the home to get you out the door? Kids lost their shoes, lunches weren't made, somebody else needed your attention. Maybe by having an evening plan would help alleviate some of those morning, disasters, things that stress you out, so you don't arrive in that state of stress. All things happen with plans. That's the best way that you can begin to reduce stress. Besides assessing it, knowing where the triggers are, stress is always going to happen. It's part of us. You're going to leave work and the traffic home is going to stress you out. So knowing your own personal triggers, knowing what triggers happen on a team, doing the assessment for, okay, what are some next best steps, how to alleviate the stress, and then the all-important piece of making a plan. How will you begin to alleviate that? There's so many things that are beyond our control. We're always going to have residents that need something, or we're always going to have new regulations. Families are always going to make certain demands. We know those stresses will be there. So what are some planning steps you can take? Usually it's just a matter of making sure you make time for it throughout your day. So I hope these tips have helped you. I hope you start breathing. I know the stress is there, but go ahead and subscribe to this channel so that you can get more and more tips. I am a former wellness coach. I have a background in that. So more tips are coming for personal ways to re-energize as well. This is Kathy Perry, corporate energy expert, hoping that you have a great day. Stay powered up.